What's up YouTube, Interiors here. People ask me about my guitar tones probably more than anything else I've ever been asked about since I started this project. How do you get your tones? What do you use for your tones, etc. And in particular, I always pretty much get asked about how to achieve that really tight, djenty rhythm tone, basically. You guys know what I'm talking about. In the gear rundown video that I uploaded a few weeks ago, I talked about the fact that I do use Line 6 Pod Farm primarily for all of my tones. So today I'm going to go through one of my main Pod Farm tones that I use to get that really tight, djenty rhythm tone that I'm always asked about. So by the end of this video, you'll be able to use this tone for yourself as long as you use Pod Farm. Before I go any further, if you enjoy this video, please drop a like and leave a comment letting me know if you tried out the tone and what you thought of it if you tried it out. I'm very curious to hear people's thoughts on it. And make sure you subscribe if you want to see more content like this in the future. I'm going to be doing a lot more recording tip videos like this. I also uploaded a similar video a couple weeks ago where I go over some very basic tips on drum programming. So if that's something you may be interested in, I encourage you to go check that out as well, and I'll put a link in the description. Alright, so now let's go ahead and get into the guitar tone here. So I am just going to switch over to my Reaper window. Alright, there we are. So you can see I've got a really basic project here. I just have two guitar tracks and some drums programmed there below. I just wrote this little 15-20 second riff just for the purposes of this video, basically so I can just demonstrate what the tone sounds like, and you guys can all hear if it's something that you're actually going to be interested in using on your own. I did not record any bass on this because I really just want you to be able to hear the tone by itself. I may do a separate video in the future where I go over how I get some of my bass tones, so if that's something you may be interested in, definitely leave a comment below and let me know to give me some encouragement to invest time in making that video. Alright, so I'm going to play this now so you can hear the tone in action, and then I'm going to show you how to make it. This was all recorded on my Agile Intrepid 8-string guitar with an EMG 808 pickup, and it's double-tracked, and the two tracks are panned hard left and hard right, just so you know really what you're listening to. Alright, so that is our tone that we're going to be looking at today. So I'm going to go ahead and open up one of my Pod Farm windows from my right panned track here. You can already kind of see at first glance, if you're familiar with Pod Farm, that there's nothing too glamorous or out of the ordinary necessarily about this tone. You don't have to have any of the Pod Farm expansion packs to use any of the elements in this tone. So that's one thing I really like about this tone as well, is that if you're just working with base level Pod Farm straight out of the box, you're able to achieve this tone. So starting, the very first thing in my signal chain is my noise gate here. Now on that, I've got my threshold set relatively high at, -24 dB. And then I've got my decay over here set right at 4%. And that's because we want to achieve that really tight, djenty sound. Alright, so now let's go over to the next element in my signal chain, which is going to be our tube screamer. So on this, I've got my drive set right around 11 o'clock at 42%. Got my gain set right around 2.5 o'clock at 66%. And then I've got my tone set at 96%, almost at 100. So I definitely like to push a lot of tone from my tube screamer. Next up, I have my amp, which I use the Line 6 Spinal Puppet head that's in Pod Farm. I keep my drive on this set right around the same as it is on the tube screamer. I don't like to push a ton of drive in from the amp or the tube screamer. I like to keep them both set relatively moderately and allow them to kind of combine the drives that way. I keep my bass set relatively low. Part of the reason for that is because I'm also using a lot of really low tunings a lot of the time. My newer music, a lot of it is in drop E on an 8-string. I keep my middle set relatively moderately at 60%, and then my treble is maxed out right at 100. My presence is at 74%, and then I've got my volume all the way up as well. And then on to my cab here. I'm using the 4x12 Brit Celeste and keeping the room set at 20%, and I have a 57 off axis on that. Alright, so next up is my compressor, where I have my threshold set at negative 12 dB, and then I've got my gain set at 3. So that is my settings on my compressor. And then the last thing in my signal chain is my 4-band EQ here, where I add these two little bumps here right in the middle using the B and C controls on the left side. And that really just helps to kind of lift up the tone a little bit and add a little bit more thickness to it. So everyone, that is how I make my tight djenty rhythm tone in PodFarm. Again, this is not the only tone that I've ever used over the years, but it is one of my go-tos. Down below in the description is a free MediaFire link where you can download the L6T file for this tone. So if you want to try it out on your own, go hit up that link. You don't even have to make it yourself. You can just download it and use it. So I hope you enjoyed the video today. Last thing is, if you're interested in seeing how I played that riff that I played earlier, I'm going to include a quick playthrough for that riff at the end of the video. And with that, I hope you have a great day.